If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. It would really help the channel, and we have battle reports, boarding actions, and list videos. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is for those who have been asking for some 1000 points list updated with the Virtus Praetors. For this video, we will be focusing on the Custodes Codex only. I'm working on a few 1000 points lists with both Forge World and Codex units, and that video will be coming out soon. Even though these are Codex lists only, they should still be quite competitive. The bikes add some Codex balance. I have a list for all 5 detachments with some strengths and weaknesses for each list. And let's start with the Auric champions. Here is our Auric champions Codex list. It comes to 995 points. Our warlord is Trajan Valoris. Our other character, we have a shield captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike with the salvo launcher. For our other data sheets, we have 2 Alaris custodians with the guardian spears, a unit of 5 wardens with the guardian spears in Vexilla, 3 Virtus Praetors with the salvo launchers, and we can either join this with the shield captain or have the shield captain solo, a unit of 4 prosecutors, and then finally a unit of 4 witch seekers. The Auric champions detachment rule is assemblage of might. At the start of your command phase, you're going to pick an enemy unit, and then until the next command phase, any Adeptus Custodes character units will have +1 to wound against that enemy unit. 2 stratagems to keep in mind for this list: Emperor's Auspice, a 4-up Feel No Pain to a character model in your army, and earning a name. For 1 CP in the fight phase, you select 2 Custodes character units, and each time one of those models targets a monster or a vehicle unit, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. The strengths for this list: 4 salvo launchers in the list to provide some anti-tank. Trajan Valoris combined with that earning a name stratagem to reroll the hits and wounds is deadly. Trajan with the wardens will hit hard and be hard to kill. A decent amount of secondary scoring: the solo shield captain on the Dawn Eagle, the 2-man Alaris, and the Witch Seekers. Emperor's Auspice for 1 CP to have a 4-up Feel No Pain on that 8-wound solo shield captain. And that's why I like to run him solo, so I can use Emperor's Auspice, because it's only the character model, so if you do have a bodyguard, the bodyguard survives the attacks, this is wasted. For the weaknesses of this list, if the opponent has a lot of vehicles or monsters above toughness 10, we may want to join that shield captain to the Virtus Praetors, get access to that +1 to the wound from the assemblage of might on the salvo launchers, because it does need to be a character unit. So once you join that shield captain to the Virtus Praetors, it is now a character unit. And joining the shield captain with the Virtus Praetors is a weakness, since it will bring down our total scoring potential. The stratagems only work on character models in the Auric champions, and the detachment rule only works on character units. And that's just a built-in weakness of the Auric champions. For a game plan for this list, Trajan and the wardens hold and take the middle of the board if possible. Use the 4-up Feel No Pain if targeted by a big counterattack. We need to survive to counter back with Trajan and the bikes. The Virtus Praetors are the anti-tank damage dealers of the list. Anything over toughness 10 will be harder to take out. The salvo launchers being twin linked will help with that though. If there is a few toughness 10 plus units in the enemy list, put the shield captain with the bikes to gain the access to the detachment rule. The Alaris will start in reserves as a rapid ingress threat, or try to steal the enemy home objective. The Witch Seekers and that solo shield captain will be our utility and secondary scoring units. Let's move on to the shield host. Next up is our Codex shield host list. This list comes to 1000 points. Our warlord is a blade champion with the Auric mantle enhancement. For our other data sheets, we have a unit of 3 Alaris custodians with the guardian spears, a unit of 5 wardens with 5 guardian spears and a Vexilla, 2 units of Virtus Praetors, both of them have the 2 salvo launchers, 2 units of 4 prosecutors, and then finally a unit of 4 witch seekers. The detachment rule for the shield host is called Martial Mastery. At the start of the battle round, you get to pick one of these bullet points below. You can either pick Adeptus Custodes models with the Martial Coutal ability, melee weapons gain the critical hits on 5's ability, or you could pick Adeptus Custodes models with the Martial Coutal ability, melee weapons have an extra 1 AP. The enhancement on the Blade Champion Auric Mantle adds +2 to the character's wound characteristic, so the Blade Champion will have 8 wounds. 2 stratagems to keep in mind for this list: Arcane Genetic Alchemy for 1 CP. Any phase after mortal wounds have been allocated, you get a 4 Feel No Pain against those mortal wounds. Then we have Multi-Potentiality for 1 CP, and this is a fallback, shoot and charge stratagem. The strengths for this list: there's a lot of melee threat in this list to go along with the detachment rule. We do have some anti-tank with the Virtus Praetors, and between the Psychona units and the Virtus Praetors, secondary scoring should be strong. And like I said, Auric Mantle brings that Blade Champion up to 8 wounds, extra hard to kill. The Alaris can do some light infantry shooting with their ballistic grenade launchers and their spears. The weaknesses for this list: the Virtus Praetor salvo launchers can be a bit swingy into anything higher than toughness 10. There's no true long-range anti-tank in the list. The salvo launchers are 24-inch range, so there's not a long range on these. The jet bikes will help, but it is easy for an opponent to figure out where we are going and what we are trying to do. This might be a shield host weakness though, just because you're pretty much marching ahead, trying to get objectives, and just trying to hit them as hard as you can in melee. The game plan for this list: a lot of these lists are going to have the Warden's unit pressure the center objective. The jet bikes in turn 1, if need be, can use the turbo boost ability to get that auto advance 6 to get some early objective control or stage for turn 2. The one Witchseeker unit can scout 6 inches towards the center in case we get any of those secondaries like aerial denial or anything like that, where it's good to be on the center of the board. The Alaris will be in reserves, ready to rapid ingress in to deal with any threats and then use Golden Light to do it all over again. And that's our shield host list. Let's move on to the Solar Spearhead. This is my Solar Spearhead list. It comes to 995 points. The Warlord is a Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with that Honored Fallen enhancement in a multi-melta. For our other character, we have another Venerable Dreadnought with the Augury uplink in a multi-melta as well. For our other datasheets, yep, that's a third Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, once again with a multi-melta. A unit of 3 Virtus Praetors with Hurricane Bolters, and a unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with Hurricane Bolters. And then finally, we have 2 units of 4 Witchseekers. The detachment rule for the Solar Spearhead comes in 2 different parts. Auric Armor: when Adeptus Custodes vehicles are at starting strength, add 2 to the objective control. While those vehicles are below starting strength, reroll the hit roll of 1. Finally, while the Adeptus Custodes vehicle is below half strength, reroll the hit roll and wound roll of 1. The second part, Moritoi Ancients: add 2 to the move characteristic of models in Adeptus Custodes Walkers units, and add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for such units. And also, in the Muster's Army step, you can select 2 of these Adeptus Custodes models. Those selected units gain the character keyword. So that's why I have 2 character Venerable Dreadnoughts in this list. The 2 enhancements in the list: Augury uplink on one of the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts gives that Contemptor Dreadnought a 5-up Feel No Pain. On my Warlord, we have Honored Fallen. While a friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or mounted unit is within 6 inches of the bear, each time a unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. And 2 stratagems to keep in mind for this list: Relentless Persecution. This allows these dreadnoughts to advance and charge. Then we have Unstoppable for 1 CP as well. In the start of your movement phase, you can select an Adeptus Custodes vehicle or Custodes mounted unit. Then that unit can move through terrain like they were infantry, smash through the terrain, and attack something on the other side. The strengths for this list: if the opponent does not have a lot of anti-tank weapons, this list will be a nightmare. 3 Venerable Dreadnoughts that can once per game stand up with D6 wounds remaining. One of them has that 5+ Feel No Pain too, so it will be extra hard to kill. And then they can advance and charge for 1 CP with that Relentless Persecution. 5 Virtus Praetors with AP1, damage 2 Hurricane Bolters with reroll the hits of 1 within 6 inches of our Warlord Contemptor. They are going to do some serious work into infantry. 1 Witchseeker can camp out on our home objective. The other Witchseeker unit and the unit of 2 Virtus Praetors will be our secondary scoring units. And if there's going to be a lot of pressure on our home objective, we can leave one of our Venerable Dreadnoughts on that home objective and then use both Witchseekers to scout up the board and go for some secondaries and do some chaff actions. Some weaknesses for this list: we do have 3 multi-meltas in the list, but the long-range anti-tank is non-existent. No Wardens to pressure the center objective or soak an entire army's worth of damage with that 4-up Feel No Pain. If the opponent has a lot of anti-tank, we could be in trouble. Secondary scoring might be a bit sketchy, but I think it could work with some planning. And this is a CP-hungry detachment, and there's not a lot we can do to help it except for good CP management. You could bring Inquisitor Cotias, but he really depends on the opponent bringing a model that has an ability to gain CP, because you can't use that unless your opponent is using an ability to gain a CP. Because you can't use his gain a CP ability unless the opponent uses an ability like that first. So unless the opponent has something like Azrael or Imhotep, you're kind of out of luck with him if they don't have those units. The game plan for this list: We could play the slam the army into their army stack check playstyle. I think this detachment and list plays much better if we stage, use all the potential threats the list and detachment rule brings to force mistakes on the opponent. These 3 dreadnoughts will be an absolute pain in a 1000 point game. The opponent will essentially have to kill 6 dreadnoughts if we have good luck on those 2+ rolls for the unyielding ancients, because that's an 84% chance every time to stand back up once per game. Killing 6 of these dreadnoughts in a 1000 point game will be a tough ask. The Virtus Praetors can crash through the terrain for 1 CP to get some good shot lines and charges on those important enemy units. The jet bikes have that lance ability, so when they charge, they'll have +1 to their wound roll. Use the threat potential of this list to gain board control and then push the enemy further and further back into their deployment. And that's the Solar Spearhead. Let's move on to the Talons of the Emperor. The next list is a Talons of the Emperor list. It comes to 1000 points. Our Warlord is a Blade Champion with the Gift of Tamarind Artifice enhancement. We have another Blade Champion in the list as well. For our other data sheets, we have 2 units of 4 Wardens, 4 Guardian Spears, and 1 Vexilla in those units. A unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Salvo Launchers, 2 units of 4 Woodseekers, a unit of 4 Prosecutors, and then finally, for our dedicated transports, 1 Psychona Rhino with the Hunter Killer Missile. The detachment rule for the Talons of the Emperor is called Revered Companions. Psychona units from your army gain the following ability. While Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, models in that unit have a 5-up feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes from your army gain the following ability, Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. The enhancement that we do have on the Blade Champion, Gift of the Tamarind Artifice, each time the bearer makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. So that will make this Blade Champion hit quite a bit harder in combat. Some stratagems to keep in mind for this list in this detachment: Emperor's Executioners for 2 CP. Each time a model in your unit targets an enemy that is below starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll. +1 to wound is a very strong buff for these Custodes. Hunt is 1 for 1 CP, fall back, shoot and charge. And then finally, the premier stratagem for Talons of the Emperor, Talon Pincer for 1 CP. This is that reactive move. If any enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback within 9 inches, we can do a 6-inch normal move. The strengths for this list: 2 Blade Champion Warden units that can advance and charge. Also 2 hard to shift but deadly melee units. 1 Blade Champion will hit extra hard with that Gift of Tamarind Artifice enhancement with that +1 to the wound roll and melee. A lot of secondary and early board control with all the Psychona units in the list and the 2 Virtus Praetors. Talon Pincer for 1 CP is such a great stratagem for sneaky plays. Reactive movement 6 inches is fantastic. So weaknesses for this list: there's no long-range anti-tank except that 1 Seeker Missile. We only have 2 strong units to engage those more deadly enemy units with the 2 Blade Champion and Warden units. It's not much of a weakness, but the Woodseekers do not benefit from the detachment rule. The +1 to hit within 6 inches of a non-Psychona model doesn't matter +1 to hit when you have torrent weapons. The game plan for this list: we want to push the 2 Blade Champion Warden units onto 2 No Man's Land objectives that will be the easiest to hold for the game. The Virtus Praetors can hunt down any enemy light infantry units. The Woodseekers and the Psychona Rhino can do secondary scoring and stay within 6 inches of our Blade Champion Wardens unit to give that 5+ feel no pain to mortals and psychic from our detachment rule. The Prosecutors, once again, hanging out in their tent, camping out our home objective. And that's the Talons of the Emperor 1000 points list. Let's finish with our Null Maiden list. Here is our Null Maiden Vigil 1000 point Codex list. Our Warlord is going to be a Leia. We do have 2 other characters in the list, a Blade Champion and then a Knight Centura with the Raptor Blade enhancement. Our battle line, we have a unit of 4 Prosecutors. For our other data sheets, we have a unit of 5 Custodian Wardens with the 5 Guardian Spears in Vexilla. They will be joining the Blade Champion. 2 big units of 10 Vigilators to join a Leia and that Knight Centura. A unit of 4 Witchseekers. And then finally, 2 Psychona Rhinos that we'll be putting our Vigilators into. The strengths for this list: the Blade Champion Wardens unit do not need detachment support to be a tough, dangerous unit. The Leia gives the Vigilators fights first, so that's 20 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2, so those can do quite a bit of damage in melee. the 2 Rhinos can keep our 2 squishy Vigilator units safe. The 2 Rhinos can also add some tough objective holders once the Vigilators have gotten out of those Rhinos. The Raptor Blade enhancement adds 1 attack, strength, and damage to the Knight Centura's melee weapon. Weaknesses for this list: there is no ranged anti-tank in the list except the 1-shot Seeker missile on each Rhino. Other than the Blade Champion and Wardens, we do not have any tough infantry units, a lot less overall shooting than a normal Custodes list since the Vigilators have no ranged attacks at all. The Detachment rule and the stratagems are very opponent dependent. If the opponent list has no Psyker units in it, we are at a severe disadvantage. That Detachment rule is creeping dread in the battle shock step of the opponent's army. If any unit is below starting strength and within 12 inches of a Psychona unit, the enemy unit must take a battle shock test. If below half strength, -1 to the battle shock roll. And then a lot of our stratagems rely on battle shock or attacking Psyker units, so if the enemy does not have any Psyker units, we're in for a rough time. The game plan for this list: we want to use the Blade Champion Wardens unit to draw attention off the Rhinos and our other squishy targets. We want to get those Vigilator units in good staging areas. Since they will be the main damage dealing units of the list, we don't want them getting killed moving up the board. Choose wisely when deciding what to shoot with those 2 Seeker missiles, because we only get 2, so really make these missiles count when you use them. The Witchseekers and the empty Rhinos will be our secondaries. The Witchseekers and the empty Rhino. The Witchseekers and our Rhinos, once the Vigilators have gotten out of them, will be our secondary scoring units. The Prosecutors, once again, set up camp on our home objective. And that is all 5 detachments for our 1,000 point Codex list. So let's move on to some final thoughts. Now let's end with some final thoughts. I wanted to add the new and improved Virtus Praetors in these lists. They give the Codex at least some anti-tank potential without taking venerable Land Raiders. Each one of these lists will still be quite competitive and fun even without Forge World units. I will be putting out a 1,000 points list roundup including Forge World units soon. What list do you like the most? Throw it in the comments. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, boarding actions, and other Warhammer 40K content. Like I always say, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.